Yeah.
I know that YouTube won against Viacom this week in a court case, and seems like it's a rare win in terms of the circuit going between the more established old media and. But I wonder whether we can put it in as a win or whether it's neutral or what your thoughts are.
Well, so the
seems very minor.
Okay. Well, so for background. There's a copyright law in this country called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMCA. It was passed in 1998, and among other things, it exempts people who host content from liability if that content infringes on copyright if they take down material expeditiously. So in other words, if you run a web server and someone who has an account on that web server puts up something that infringes on copyright, you're not liable for the copyright infringement. No one can sue you. You don't owe any money to anyone, provided that if when you receive a notice telling you that it's infringing, you take it down. And this is what YouTube does with all the material that they allow people to upload. It's a lot of material. It's 29 hours of video per minute uploaded to YouTube. And it's the corner of the DMCA that has allowed every single user-generated material website to exist, right? It's why Blogger exists, it's why TypePad exists, it's why WordPress exists, it's why Twitter exists. I mean, there just aren't enough like lawyer hours remaining between now and the heat death of the universe to review all of this material before you put it online. And you know, in other media where this exemption doesn't exist, like say cable television, the way that it works is they only air a very small amount of material because it's not worth their while to review very large quantities of material that aren't commercially successful or don't have a commercial element to them. And so only very commercial material where it's kind of the minimum threshold to overcome is this worth a $500 an hour lawyer looking at it to decide whether or not it infringes on copyright, and if not, it just simply never finds its way into the media. So YouTube has always relied on this. Viacom sued YouTube for $1 billion, and among other things, they claim that YouTube should have a duty to police all the material that they posted before it went live. So 29 hours of video per minute needed to be reviewed by like an army of lawyers, but also that they shouldn't be allowed to have a privacy setting on videos, because YouTube, you know, if you want to like upload a video of you like your kid in the bath for your folks to look at, you can set it as private and only people who are in your friends group can see it. And Viacom said that by allowing this privacy setting, they made it possible for infringers to upload video that they couldn't police, right? They couldn't download it to figure out whether or not it was infringing. So they said there should be no private videos. And you know, by extension, the theory was that no one should have any privacy setting, because if it's illegal for YouTube to do it, it should be illegal for everyone to do it. And then it's kind of funny too, because it turned out once the court filings went in, it turned out that Viacom, even as they were suing, were also uploading their videos to YouTube because they kind of needed to have them there because it's vital to their own media strategy. So they were paying literally dozens of marketing companies to smuggle their videos onto YouTube, and they were even roughing them up to make them look like they were pirated, to give them like pirate chic. And there was so much of this that they actually couldn't keep track of which videos were actually pirated and which ones they'd pirated themselves, and they were sending takedown notices for videos that they paid someone to upload. So anyway, what the court held was that Viacom's theories about safe harbor, which is what this is called, this thing where you don't have liability if you do expeditious takedown, their theories were wrong, that you can have privacy settings and you don't have to preemptively police all material before it gets onto the internet. And Viacom immediately said they're going to appeal. No one was surprised by this. In fact, no matter who won, it was a foregone conclusion that it was going to be appealed. What's interesting news this week about YouTube is that the head copyright attorney for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, who's been there for 9 years, Fred von Lohman, who just got an award from the American Library Association for Copyright Lawyer of the Year, just left to be one of the 3 heads of copyright at Google. So they have really good counsel. In fact, the 3 people who are their counsel in copyright are William Patry, who wrote a book called Patry on Copyright that every single copyright lawyer in this country has a copy of. It's the single most canonical reference on copyright. Like you can't talk about copyright without talking about Patry on Copyright. He is like head and shoulders the greatest expert on copyright in this country, so he's a pretty good lawyer. And then a woman named Daphne Kiss, who used to be in the Samuelson Clinic, which Pamela Samuelson, who's the other great expert on copyright in this country, and who has 2 clinics, one in Berkeley and one at GWU in DC. And she's also a kind of very good scholar of copyright and an advocate for user rights. So Google's got an amazing copyright team. I'm feeling pretty bullish about it. I think that where they go next will be pretty, I have high hopes for it. And at least they didn't roll over or do like a deal like that. I think a lot of us were worried that they would just do a deal, right? What I think will be ultimately beneficial for us, although it's kind of dangerous, is that if there's a judgment, right? If the Supreme Court comes out and says, this is what this statute means, period, end of story, no more debate about it, no more FUD, no more, you know, because what often happens is, like if you're like just working for a publisher or whatever that has a million things, and they've got a copyright lawyer who's also 5 other kinds of lawyers and has 1,000 things that he has to do every day, and you go to him or her and say, you know, we're going to allow users to host material on our website and we'll do this takedown thing, is that enough? Is they'll go, I don't know, right? I mean, there's like these lawsuits, they haven't been settled, and these ones that were settled, but they weren't settled by a judge, they were settled at a court, and there's this zone of uncertainty, and we should probably go beyond what the statute says just to be on the safe side. And so we end up with this kind of ever-tightening noose, where like the standard practice gets worse and worse because everyone looks at what everyone else is doing and goes, okay, we should do that, but maybe err a little on the side of caution. And you err on the side of caution, you err on the side of caution, eventually all the oxygen in the room disappears. So what's great about this is that Google probably could have done a deal with Viacom. In fact, the other thing that came out in the Viacom filings were all these emails between Viacom executives saying, you know, very profane, like absolutely hilariously profanity-laced, saying, you know, like basically we can't start anything as good as YouTube, and we can't afford to buy it from them. Let's sue it. And when we do, I get to run it. And then some other exec going, no, I get to run it. And someone else going, no, it's going to be me. Screw you guys. And so they probably could have brokered a settlement with Viacom. I mean, judging from these emails, it looks like they really would like to be in business with YouTube just on their own terms. And I'm sure that's what Viacom had in mind. And instead, Google's gone the hard route, right? I mean, they're basically proposing to spend probably, you know, I don't know, $100 million, $200 million on a defense that will go straight all the way to the Supreme Court in order to make some clear law on this, that everybody else, no matter what you do, you know, your university will change its policy based on this. Your ISP will change its policy based on this if we get a win. Now, on the other hand, if we get a loss, I don't know, we'll have to pass a new law.